welcome to Local Energy. My name's Peter Brecht here with Wade Spear, and our guest today is Russell Smith from Top Gun Oilfield Training. Russell, thanks for coming on with us.
No,
Excited to
thank
have
you.
you.
Thank you. It's an honor to get to do this, guys. Y'all are doing really good, and man, I'm pumped. So thank
All
y'all.
right.
All right. Good deal.
Yeah. So of course, I get a phone call right as we kick this off,
I
as
had
it
the meeting
should
my
be.
phone.
Keep it relaxed around here. But anyways, Russell, so I was introduced to your YouTube channel, I think about 2 years ago,
Really?
maybe when you started doing this. I don't know how long Top Gun's been around, but I watched a couple of your videos, and at the time, I felt like everything you were saying was just incredibly foreign to me. And still to this time, not having sat in a wireline chair or done any of that, I still feel like there's a lot to be learned. But as I've watched more of your videos, the way that you explain things has always been just so well laid out and I think thoughtful in terms
Thanks.
of kind
Thanks.
of bringing people from an unknown perspective to, okay, we can actually get you guys to do this job. So wanted to really learn about you and really what started and why did you start Top Gun?
Well, it's funny. I started as a farmer, and somebody always said the best employees in the wireline are ex ranchers, farmers, and military. So I kind of fit the bill, to jump in on the wireline side. Halliburton got me and went through the ranks, and they taught me and spent a lot of money on training on wireline. And just went through the system and got tired of doing pump down work and staring out a window. That started up, and we were used to doing work, vertical work. We were doing bond log today and then something else tomorrow. And when they put us on a pump down truck, it just got so monotonous. Like I can't do this anymore. So I got out of the field, said I don't want to do this anymore. So I became a tech manager for a little company called JW Wireline, which was bought out by FTSI and gone through the ranks. And but in the process, I bought a piece of land, and it accidentally had a well on it. So I was getting clearing brush, and here's this pipe sticking out of the ground, and thinking it's sealed.
Right.
And I get to playing with it, and I stuck like 60 foot of jointed PVC, and I never got to the bottom. I was like, man, I don't know how deep this goes. And so, needless to say, I got a little wireline truck, or I got a sand truck to come out, and they went to 1,200 feet, and they said, we're running out of cat line. We can't go no deeper. And my gosh, I didn't think this thing went that deep, And so I'm all pumped, and needless to say, we went down. We got JW gave me a truck. We checked it, and it went down to 4,600 feet, and we went ahead and
Wow.
put cement in it and kind of sealed it up a little better, not knowing if it was going on. And we started off as a test well, and then I got to thinking, man, I got a hole to do this and make a actually training thing in it. And we ran a bond log in and it had cement, and I'm like, man, this is really neat. So it was a God blessing thing. He planned it, and there's no way a person could drill a well and do a school and be profitable because the money to
Right.
do that will cost so much. And for something that was given to me, and it was drilled in 1968, 9, and that's when I was born. So to give you some idea how old this well is, but that's how we got going. And we just slowly talked to people, Halliburton, Schlumberger, Baker. They had all the training. They did it, and there was never a third party training guy out there. And there was a guy overseas that did slickline training on his own. And I think it was in New Zealand, and he gave me the idea to do E-line, and that's all I know. We started from there, and I kind of copied. JW had a little training facility in East Texas, and I got to help train over there, so I knew how they did it. And I said, "Hey, let's just copy the process, and we'll do it on our own, and make it a third party issue, and anybody can come. You don't have to have a big boy job with Halliburton or somebody to do it." So that's how we started. In 2017 is when we started down.
Okay. So that was 2017.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So it's
Are you guys still out there running up and down in that same tubing and doing all that stuff?
In a couple of years, people were testing. They brought a caliper out, and they said, "Man, Russell, there's something wrong with your casing." And what do you mean? He goes, "Man, you got something wrong. 'Cause you got these insets on the inside that are like this terrible." I'm like, "I don't know. This well was given to me. I don't know, is it over torque collars or whatever." And I looked at the caliper log and realized it's drill stem is what the casing is. Now, whether or not they had wore out drill stem and said, "Look, we connections don't fit together. Let's make production out of it." Because the guy that drilled it owned the well, I think is the way I looked at it on the little card. And that's what we got. So we actually have drill stem in the hole. So it's kind of unique on that end of it. I guess I ain't got to worry about it rotting or, rusting through anytime soon. So it's been doing good.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
How frequently are you running classes and doing all that
You
stuff?
know, I try to do a bond log class and a supervisor class. A guy, supervisor class is a guy that wants to learn how to run the truck. We teach him gamma tools and temperature tools and the software and everything. Then a bond log class is a specific class just for learning the bond log, And I try to do that, once a month if I can is kind of what I shoot for. But if somebody calls me and say, "Hey, we got a couple guys," I throw them in anytime. If I got an opening, we got a class going. So it's kind of how we do it.
Can you usually get that done like a bond logging class in a single day, or is it
No,
multiple
no,
days?
it depends on the people. If I got a class of 4 people, I would probably need 3 days just because I gotta share the well and everybody's gotta take turns running the well. But if it's 1 or 2 guys, we could usually get it done in about 2 days, pretty easy.
Okay.
If it's over 3, I'm starting to lean on that 3rd day to do it. And it's the same with the supervisor class. We shoot for 10 days. If it's 1 or 2 guys, we may finish a day early, just because they can
Okay.
get it on the well done sooner.
Right. Huh.
And I was a LinkedIn post a few days ago, but it seems like you're training folks from all over the country. I mean, you have people from
Oh my gosh,
California coming in and,
well,
all the places.
when I had no idea I would be getting guys from Australia and New Zealand and Argentina, and I had no idea. It's not that popular, guys. Don't act like this is some popular school. We're so small. Wireline's such a small industry and it's such a niche little thing that people all over the world, it's only a handful of guys that do that, but they got to learn how to do it. And there's, no other place to do it unless you do hands-on training. And that's what most wireline companies do. It's all behind the seat and you learn. And if you got a good teacher, you
Good
got a
job.
good mentor, that does fine. I got nothing against it. But just the other day, to give you an example, a guy called me and said, "You wouldn't believe we had a short on our wireline truck, and the guy who's a 10, 15-year vet had no idea how to find it." But that's what we've run into. Just a simple little test on the wire, but he's never been showed how to do it. And so it's
Tell you,
on that end.
my experience on the drilling side, I mean, we're not out there running wireline
Yeah.
every day, hopefully.
Yeah.
We will have to run some casing logs or CBLs and
Mhm.
things like that. And my experience has been that there's definitely a need for proper training out there. Because I
Oh,
mean,
it
I've
is.
been in the truck before and we're trying to run a CBL in our 7-inch and it's showing cement where like I'm like, guys, there's no way. Like we didn't pump enough volume to get up to 2,000
There's
feet
no
below
way they could be
surface.
there.
It should be ringing free right here. And I don't know enough about it. I never had the experience to be able to help and do all that stuff. And we've had to call another company, a guy who's been doing it 40 years to come over to this competitor's truck and
To
help,
verify.
dial in tools and do these things. And it feels like right now we've got a lot of people who can run the wire in and out, but whenever it comes to evaluating problems or whatever, that there's big challenges.
Bond logging, it's not hard to run. It's just knowing your tool set up right and knowing what you're seeing is what you're seeing. And if you get into free pipe and you're like, look, this is free. Everything tells me it's free. My tool is telling me. Then when I go in the hole and I run into cement, it is what it is, And
Right.
I just tend to want to make the log read a good bond. I go, "You don't do that. You can't do that." It's
Right.
like, well, I don't disappoint my customer. It is what it is, guys.
Mhm.
It don't
Right.
change the log to make it the outcome. And it seems like that's the mindset of a lot of people. And
That's definitely a problem. I mean, if you're making a lot of times you make decisions off of that data,
yeah,
and if you're
it's
getting bad data, you're not going to make good
you
decisions.
know,
You're definitely not going to get to the root cause.
there's a guy, Kirk Harris. He does a thing on LinkedIn, and great on bond log interpretation, and great deal. And I asked a question one time. I said, "How do we know the log was ran correctly?" And it's like, if you're not there and you don't know the company that ran it or whatever, and they had things set up wrong, then how do we decipher if we got good cement or not?
Mm.
By just looking at it. But the VDL pretty much tells us, and I teach guys mostly how to read the VDL because I can't manipulate it with Warrior. I can't change it, and it'll tell you if you got cement or not. Yeah,
I
Mm.
got you.
the
Okay.
VDL's the key. Learn the VDL, how to read the VDL. You got it. Not the amplitude
Gotcha.
or the color over there because I can change the color, do whatever you want. So somebody will go, "Is it red?" And you're like, "I can make it red, sir." And that all I know
Do you
is
want it to be?
red.
Yeah. I got you. I got you.
Interesting. Well, Russell, I can tell that you're an inquisitive person. Just, if I think a lot of people buy a piece of property and find a well on it and just kind of throw dirt on it and move on. But,
Yeah,
it's really interesting to hear like that origin story. But what are some things that maybe you've learned along the way that in teaching people as far as like how do most people respond to learning wireline? Is it a hands-on thing? Is it books? Like really,
It
what does it take to learn this?
the hands-on, I believe, is the key to this. We can lecture all day long. I could go anywhere and lecture, but until they actually do it and they actually turn the tool on and set the gates up and start seeing the winch running, then it clicks. So like, I got this. Okay. And I'm a farm ranch kid, and I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to dumb it down for me to make me understand it. Okay. I did graduate from A&M with an agronomy degree. I did have a degree which got me in the door with Halliburton because you had to have a degree there. But, in our training, we try to keep it as simple as I can and put it in terms that a person can understand it. Now, I'll talk about a bond log and the waves. If you throw a rock in a pond and it's perfectly clear, are the waves smooth? And you're like, yeah, it's equal all the way through. I said,
Mhm.
so the waves are perfectly straight up and down. That's free pipe. But if you go through some trees or brush or something in the waves, or what does the wave do? Well, it starts refracting. I go, that's because it's going into the formation. And that's a good sign for a bomb log because the sound's traveling into the formation. That means I got cement. So just a
Hmm.
little simple idea like that. They're like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. That, it starts diffracting.
Huh.
Yeah.
But that's the key to teaching is to be able to get it to where they can understand it. And that's just one little aspect of wireline. I really thought wireline was going to be simple when I got hired on by Halliburton. I said, man, anybody can run a winch line truck, we run winch lines, for area. But it's totally nothing like that. We're dealing with miles in the hole. It's with under heat, pressure. I always said frack is easy. If they break down, that's right on surface. I go wireline, we're way away from our tools. So it's going to take time and money and to get out of the hole and work on stuff. And training is so critical for wireline because
Mhm.
I always said it's like having an operation. You better make sure everything is exactly right before we go in the hole because if we got to turn around and come back, it's gonna cost money. And
Mhm.
and that was kind of the mindset I kind of teach guys. So
Okay. Yeah. There's this conversation a lot of guys that I listen to that are, in their mid 30s, 40s, seeing kind of the transition from okay, we've got this age group and we have this older age group. And I personally I love talking to folks that are generations older than me. I learn so much more because they've seen a lot more things, right? They've just seen so many things. But with the knowledge transfer, I mean, there's so many, I just like even tactily things that you could do if you've been doing it for a long time. How do you transfer that knowledge to an 18-year-old? Because the industry obviously is aging out. So how do you
hmm
teach
hmm
those things to an 18-year-old so that when they get into that seat, or let's say they're their mid 20s at that point, but like so that they can actually accomplish what needs to be done? Because we are seeing a bit of a kind of a crew change, so to speak, right?
yes, definitely. I'll be honest with you, experiences teaches you anything. We can lecture till we're blue in our face, and until a person experiences, do they really grasp what's going on? And here at the school, we do that. I tried to, when everything goes right, great. Yeah, and everybody's real confident. Oh, I can do this until something bad happens. How do you react to that, and how will you handle the stress? And here at the school, we have a little pump down loop. I call it my little pump down simulator. It's about a half a mile of tubing on surface that we have little pumps to pump tools around to teach guys how to pump tools, to react to tension and the fluid change. But I can get them stuck since I'm on surface. I got stops. I can put them in. I can do a lot of things to them, and make them experience. Look, this is. And they'll pull out a rope socket, or hey, you just pulled out a rope socket, and they're like, oh no, yeah, Mike, and we just pump the tool around and it spits out the other end and they rehead and go again. But it's such an incredible training tool because they can experience something that's really bad. I go, look, you
It's gonna
just
cost
cost
a lot of money.
this is a lot of money you just did. So they realize that the double A valve on a winch truck is it's like a fishing drag is the best way to describe it. And always having that set, and making sure if something grabs you, if you don't react, that the drum will stop itself, because you set
Right.
that. But the experiences is what makes a guy good. A
Hmm.
guy told me that the other day he went through my class. He goes, "You probably taught me 10 years worth of experience in a week by teaching me all the bad stuff that can go wrong because
Hmm.
you may be 10 years before you see something like that happen, and for them to be able to know how to react to it, I think is pretty valuable, especially on the production side, because you want the guys to be as good as they can be, but even young guys, how do people trust a young guy to do a job for them that don't screw up and costs us a lot of money? I want that 56-year-old guy that's been doing this for years because I trust him and his knowledge has taught him that. And I would still lean that way. If I was a production, if I want the guy that's seasoned, but you got to let a guy start off somewhere. We all had to start somewhere, and to give the guys the confidence to go out in the field because it is stressful. Don't think being a wireline engineer is not stressful because it is, especially when things go wrong.
Right.
And a lot of guys can't handle it, and they just wig out, and I want to do this no more.
Yeah.
Company men are tough. They are, and you're gonna have to get them to be your friend to be able to handle this, and we have a big salesman class on how to deal with company men, and company men are alphas, and I'm like, look, get them to talk about themselves, ask them questions, and they'll think you're the best person in the ever because they got to brag about themselves, and
Yeah.
don't be a one-upper, don't ever beat the company man in anything, let him win in everything, and all of a sudden that guy will like you. And
I
it's a
love it.
simple little deal, but you gotta get
Man.
the guy to like you, and he can. If thing goes wrong, he'll help cover you. He goes, okay, we'll write
Yeah.
this in our report instead of making it look like you did something. And
Yeah.
So when did you first start in the oil field? What
I was
years?
in 2008, so I was
Okay.
old. I was 38 years old
Yeah.
when I got into it,
See,
and I got hazed pretty good.
I started in 2006, and I feel like there's like this Goldilocks time of starting right there because I mean, shale had just really started blowing up.
Got
I
going.
mean, everybody was going so crazy, and they needed a group of people to come in the oil field, and like I kind of raised my hand. I mean, I was literally told we're hiring anybody with a pulse, and I was like, well, I've got one of those, and we were in this really, really interesting time that activity was so high that they just needed people and you could make mistakes and survive it.
And they
Like,
didn't care.
because there was just so much work, right? And they couldn't find somebody else to replace you. And so like we got to gain all of this experience in a period of about 4 or 5 years because activity was so high and the need was so high. But I feel like now, like half the mistakes that, I say we, but half the mistakes I made like wouldn't be acceptable now just because there's not enough activity. The stakes are too high. And so like I was when you were kind of talking, it was making me think about that. And I just don't know that there's going to be another time like that. It really
I don't
felt like a
either.
very special time to enter the oil field.
It was I mean, here in South Texas, the Eagle Ford took off and there was no infrastructure and they were drilling everywhere. We had no place to stay.
Right.
We were driving into San Antone to stay on the Riverwalk Hotel because that's where we could find a place to stay.
Right.
People were saying, you're staying at the Riverwalk? Yeah, and you're like, we're all beat tired when we get there because we're hours away driving. But
Right.
it was a wild time, and the money they were
Right.
throwing, I mean, we were getting steak dinners on location. Conoco, to give you an idea, Conoco, when we started, if we did a job without any downtime, frac didn't screen out, wireline didn't, have a misrun, we all got a job bonus from Conoco. Conoco would give us. So here we're getting our normal job, which is good. And next thing I know on my paycheck, we got an extra $7,000 this month for job that we did really good just from Conoco.
Right.
And it was a crazy time. But understand also, coil tubing was sitting on location waiting for us to fish tools out. And they were paying them, because
Right.
it was a timing thing. And they just expected us to mess up. And at the beginning, believe me, it was a lot of mess ups, but it was a learning curve on us trying to figure out how to do it. We didn't have the right wire. We were using 7/32 line. We had this little bitty wire, and it was a process. But I don't think we'll ever experience that ever again. That was a rare time in life.
It really was.
Very
It felt like a blessing to be able to get all of that experience in that short amount of time.
Oh yeah, and nobody, you didn't get fired because of it. You got pumped off. Okay, you got pumped off. Now, no, you get pumped off. That would be detrimental.
Right.
I mean, but technology has changed, guys. I mean, we it's nowhere like it was when we were there. I mean, they got greaseless line that's super slick and it's reheaded solid. And if they got to come off of it, they just release a release tool. It's totally different than what we used to run. And how do you figure a rehead on a horizontal well that's 18,000 feet? We didn't know. We could figure gravity on the vertical, but how do we know the turn? And because friction played such a valuable role, and it mattered. Because I remember pumping all the way down, and we're pulling our limit, almost 5,000 tension, and we're thinking we're stuck. I mean, well, like, look, sand must be holding us, and we finally get it to move, and we set our guns and we shoot, and we made a next run with a downhole tension device, and same thing. We're pulling close to 4,000, 5,000 pounds, and it's only showing 80 pounds on the head, and it was
Mm.
all friction, is what we're
All
pulling.
friction.
And I'm like, if we do get stuck, there's no way we're going to get off of this head because we're going to pull our line in half. So so it's just funny how things change. But
Well,
Yeah.
technology has seen some really cool stuff.
Wade told me a story last week on the show, and just how Wireline, so like drilling was pulling technology from Wireline, and like everything kind of gets shared in
Yeah.
between, and it just really, like, the whole industry changes because of, when that starts to happen. It's pretty. I just love seeing that, between departments. I guess it's
Uh-huh.
pretty cool. So, one question I had for you is, starting later in your in your 30s, getting into the oil field, you probably went into the industry with some sort of, belief of what the business was like. Is there anything that you maybe walked into and said, hey, this is something I believe about the oil and gas industry, but that, that's changed over the years as I've learned more about it?
I think as being a farm kid, we always got up when the sun came up and went down, and getting up at 3 in the morning and 4 in the morning, every day to make it on location by 6 was something I did not. Nobody ever told me that when I got into and I hated it. Oh, man, I hated it because I'm going to bed at 8 o'clock trying to get my 8 hours in, and guys wanted to go and do stuff. So and I don't know if that's answering your question, but that was the hardest part for me is the hours and the time change. But once I got on a groove, it got better. But man, I had double alarm set. If one didn't go off, I got another one to go off. Because man, if you didn't make it, it's bad.
Yeah.
I have 4 or 5.
So
I've got 2 on my watch. I've got 2 or 3 on my phone. You can't miss
oh,
those calls.
yeah, I'm out of the field. So if y'all are still doing this, you're like, look, you got to be able to wake up and that was what I hated the most about it.
And that's actually that's perfect. I mean, I mean, obviously the hours of the job, I've heard that over and over again, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everyone talks about who's got what schedule and how does it work, and it's like
We
you could talk about this stuff all day long, but the reality is it's just a lot of hours,
Well, we
you
didn't
know?
know any better. We were on a salary with Halliburton, and they could
Yeah.
work us to death, and we never got any type of overtime, anything, but we got a job bonus. But it was when we started. I remember starting off making 45 grand a year as a trainee, and I was happy, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. I had insurance.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the next year, we break out and you become a job and you're making around 75, and then you might be getting close to a six-figure income, in my third year. And then the pump down started and it totally changed. And they had this thing called a dedicated truck where you never left a truck. You're always on this wireline truck. And we were just begged, if we could only get on that, and then all of a sudden the salaries just got astronomical. The money we could make doing that, doing that stuff, it was incredible. But
Mhm.
but I got sick of the money because I got sick of doing it. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
it ain't the money. I didn't like my life. I didn't like just 2 weeks on, 1 week off. By the time I got home and I started to get settled down, and my kids start recognizing me again, I got to leave again. And on the vertical side, it was different because I got to come home, all the time. You did a job and came home, and may leave early, but
Yeah.
you were still around. But once you start living in man camps, then it changed everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Good friend of mine, he's an offshore engineer, and he'll leave for 30 days, fly to Australia, and then he'll come
Yeah.
home for 30 days, and that recovery period, he'll turn his phone off for 2 weeks when he gets home, just because he's like, I just got to remember what it's like to be a dad, right?
Yeah, decompress and
And that's
do
real.
that.
So
But
it's a real
but
thing.
that's better. I would much rather work a 30 on, 30 off
Yeah.
because
Okay.
I mean, in my opinion, because 1 week was tough for me. I was just to get back in the groove, and my wife
Yeah.
recognized me again, and I'm leaving
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
Well, it's not just
and
that
not to
either. I mean, you
mention
talk
a
about
30-day on, 30 off. What's that?
well, I was gonna say when you're working a 2 on, 1 off too, I mean, like, a lot of those times, those 2 weeks, I mean, you're not getting much sleep. Or you're working nights and you come back home and you're trying to swap back over to days. That takes a day or 2 to get used
Well
to.
well, we were definitely a 12-hour shift, and it was around
Okay.
it paid us 14 no matter what, but it was always a drive back and forth. So we had to shift from daylight to the daytime to nighttime work, so it wasn't we never went further than our hours. It was
I
really
got you.
good because, it seemed like from 6 to 6 was the meetings, and the shift changes happen. Now, if it ever was a what they call a daylight operations only, that was a nightmare because you'll be out there till 1 or 2 in the morning. It was crazy because nobody's going to relieve you. It's just you.
Right.
That was a different deal. If they say daylight hours, everybody's like, "Oh, isn't that?" Oh, you're like, "Oh no, this is going to be bad." Yeah. And so
I got you.
Oh, that's awesome. So Russell, and this is something, we can talk about it or not. I think the first time I talked to you might have been like a year ago or something like that, just a casual conversation, just out of curiosity what you did. But something I've noticed about, your website, the way you carry yourself, is, you have like a very deep faith in what you believe. And
yeah.
I just think that if we could touch on that for a few minutes, like
Yeah.
maybe just your background and your faith, that'd be fantastic.
Wow, it's funny you asked that. Yeah, I was brought up as a Methodist, and my mother was a piano player for 50 years for this little church that we grew up in, and so I never not knew Jesus. I guess it was just ingrained in me my whole life,
Hmm.
and as I got older, my faith grew. It wasn't because my parents told me; it was I actually started studying the Bible and reading it and understanding, and going. The more you study it, the more you go, how can I not believe this? And that was just the way I see the Bible because it's just incredible. I've made mistakes in life, and we all have our testimony, and nobody's perfect. But the faith thing, I give credit to him on everything I do, good or bad. It really doesn't matter. I've learned, he's got me, and that's
Yeah.
just the way I go with it.
Yeah.
And try to teach guys here at the school. I don't want to ruffle people's feathers and teach faith stuff, But a company
Hmm.
man gave me a DVD, probably at Halliburton called "Learn the Bible in 24 Hours" by a guy named Chuck Missler, and that changed me. And honestly, I had no idea what he was giving me. But a company man took the time and said, "Look, Russell, listen to this. I think this will really helping you." Because it really helped me,
Mm,
and I listened to it. It really woke me up on understanding the Bible. And you can
that's
go on
cool.
YouTube and type 24-hour Bible all day long and
Yeah.
listen. The man's died already that did it, but it's not preaching. It's more an engineering mindset,
Hmm.
teaching, and that went right down my line in the way I think. I'm a very common sense, thinker.
Yep.
So anyway, not to get off on another
No,
subject,
no. I mean
that
that
I
I
would
love
say,
your
Check that out.
answer. It's
yeah, check
yeah.
it out. You can look it up on YouTube. 24-hour Bible. There's just certain things that are I feel like that are incredible. And nobody ever told me, and they've got time to say this, but
Yeah.
in Genesis, it says the ark landed on the seventh month of the 17th day. And you're like, why did God say when the ark landed on the month and the day?
Yeah.
And you would just read over that. And then you realize that the seventh month is the month of the Passover.
Hmm.
And you realize the day they sacrificed the animals is always on the 14th month. Oh,
Hmm.
and if Jesus was crucified on the 14th day and he rose 3 days later, then he rose on the anniversary of the ark landing with a new beginning through
Huh.
Noah, and now you have a new beginning through Christ. And I went, oh my gosh, why didn't anybody have shown me this stuff that
Yeah.
you just can't make this stuff up? And
Hmm.
so that's kind of the understanding with the what it taught me, and just woke me up. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, yeah, but yeah, it would be neat.
My dad, same engineering mindset, and I
Yeah,
asked my dad the same question, when I was like 17 years old. Like, Dad, why do you believe, right? And he's like, because when you read it, it just makes logical sense after a certain period, right? You just
you,
kind of start to
you,
go, okay, this is
yeah,
logical, right? So
mhm,
which
mhm,
is interesting. I maybe it's the engineering mind that
yeah.
thinks that way, but I had to ask because you brought it up, and I just wanted to dig a little
Well,
deeper there. So
people have told me, and I get into arguments in the classroom. They say, well, the oil was put together, and then the plankton, and all the thing. I
yeah,
go, I just don't buy that. I ain't saying that's how oil was made, but there's too much of it, and I think God just put it here, just like everything else, for us to utilize. And a lot of people don't like that answer, but
yeah. We all have our beliefs, and we need to
yeah,
stick to them. So that's great. Well, thank you, Wade. I don't want to stray too far off the oil and gas, but is there anything
Yeah.
else you'd like to ask Russell? And Russell, anything you want to
go
ask
ahead.
us?
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
I thought it was really interesting. I didn't know that you had like essentially a flow loop set up on Surface. That is that kind of hands-on training
Yeah,
right there.
yeah, we
Seems
have.
like it would be. absolutely
Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah, and a lot of people have tested tools because we can get tools stuck and see how the tools react and stuff.
Right.
Dog tools, making sure they hold, how much we can pull on them, and the pipe is not big, so it's only like a 2.5 inch inside ID, so I'm limited on that. Yeah, it's pretty, and it's not straight. There's a creek in the background, in the back, and so it's up and down. I mean, it's like a roller coaster. So the guys are not getting this pump down the highway. You know what I mean? There's a
Right.
lot of deviation in this thing. And,
All
so they get to
right.
see a lot of stuff.
That's really cool.
Awesome. Russell, I got other things I could ask. I have so many questions, but
Man, ask
I gotta,
away. You can always
yeah.
clip or edit whatever you want.
One thing that so I spoke with a gentleman 2 weeks ago, and I wrote a short article on this, but he started Wireline back in the 70s. And Wade, I think I told you this, and I was like,
Oh,
I
that's
got to
yep.
talk to someone in Wireline. But he was telling
Yep.
me how the Wireline reports, yeah, the Wireline logs changed around 1980. So I didn't know what he meant by that, and he was just being so generous with his time already that I didn't want to
Uh-huh.
like keep digging. But do Wireline log formats change over time, or is there
Well, believe it or
anything
not,
to
a
that?
wireline unit, when you're inside, they call it a dark room because they
Okay.
developed film while they're logging to give the film to the company. It's to understand how it used to be.
Yeah.
And people don't call it a dark room anymore, but this was before my time, but this is what people have told me, and you see logs that are on like a clear plastic, what
Like
they
an
maybe
X-ray thing almost.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but it looks like a pen and recorder. I keep hearing that a lot, and I don't know what that means, because that
Mhm.
was before my time,
Yeah.
but it's come a long way. It has come a long way with even with us. Everything we did, it was print. We printed everything. Print, print, print. You couldn't leave them without a print. And now
Right.
printers don't even hardly exist. They PDF now. It's PDF,
Yeah.
PDF, PDF. So we don't have to do that no more. And
Mhm.
and so the data being delivered to the customer is definitely changing.
Yeah.
Even the technology has really helped though. We used to perforate a zone and, you got to be very specific. We were shooting the zone exactly. And we got to be correlated, making sure we're on depth and everything's right. And it was the company man and the engineer. We're the ones that did it. And now, shoot, they send out an email and let the guys in the office look at the log and they'll tell us, hey, shift it this way or that way. And we'll send another one. And they're like, okay, we're good on depth. And
Hmm.
we'll go ahead and shoot. Well, before we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And so it makes it I kinda like it. It's less responsibility on the engineer, if
Totally.
somebody else can let them tell you what to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like Wade, I saw him a couple weeks ago, and he pulls up his phone, and he's, like, looking at the welder drill, and he's like, it's doing this cool stuff on his phone through an app, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm actually working right now," you know?
Oh my
So,
gosh.
it's
Yeah.
cool. It's really cool.
It was funny, there's
Yeah.
a company called Dipole, I've been training a couple of their guys, and what they're doing is they're watching these pump down crews in the office of Houston. I said, "Why are they so worried about watching the pump down and shooting on depth?" And he goes, "Russell, what they're doing is they're having one guy watch 5 wireline trucks in one room and making sure everything's going right, and they don't have a company man out on location no more."
Mm.
And they're saving a fee for a company man being out there for one guy watching everything, the video,
Hmm.
sent to Houston live. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow, that's pretty cool. So stuff I'm learning, and what's going on. So it's changing. Everything's changing.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to tour a company out in Houston, and very similar. They've got, 3 guys at computers, and they've got, oh my gosh, there must have been 50 monitors in that room
Yeah,
for,
yeah. Watching stuff.
overseas drilling, and I'm blown away. They've got it's all green and red, and they know
Yeah.
what to look
Well,
for, and they can shut it down, and it's amazing what they do. So,
well, Wade, you could probably help me with this because the horizontal drilling, they're doing that from remotely from Houston and stuff. 'Cause the guys that are doing
Oh
that,
yeah.
he goes, "I'm a horizontal driller." I go, "Oh, you're on location." They're like, "No, we're guiding the bit from
Yep.
Houston." And I went, "Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh,
know.
that's wild."
P's got, I mean, Devon and all those other companies have remote ops centers where they're watching it real time 24/7. But I mean, H&P has directional drillers sitting in their office in downtown Tulsa working 24/7, like you said, steering and drilling and sliding and, hundreds of miles away. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
isn't that
yeah,
wild? Crazy.
incredible.
Yeah, crazy.
Absolutely incredible. Well, Russell, we'll kind of close up here, and
Right.
I could talk forever, but just thank you so much for coming on the
Yeah,
show.
no.
Where can people find you? I know we've got your website,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, you can find me
topgunoilfield.com.
topgunoilfield.com.
Yep.
Like I said, we got our little podcast, but I try to shoot for one a month if I'm lucky, and that's just me.
Yeah.
We call it all shots fired because after a perforating run on a pump down, they'll announce all shots fired coming out of the hole. So that's kind of where we got the name. So you can look at that little pod, but you can go on YouTube. We got our Top Gun. I try to make videos on everything I don't want to teach, so that's just going to how it works. All right,
Yeah.
the basic stuff. I'm like, look, I don't want to show you how to read head. I want to read CCLs. You can do that on your own. I'll teach the specific stuff.
I love it.
Maybe that's wrong of me, but anyway.
No, it's repetitive, right? Whatever
Yeah.
you can kind of teach that gets out ahead. I love it. Well,
Everybody asks me, Russell, you need to put more videos out. I go, look, I'm gonna put myself out of business if I teach everything online.
Yeah.
But we have done some stuff online. We put a RP67 class together, so it is online. You can take, which is nice. So if guys need explosive training, it's there. It's available. We'll send them a card. They'll get a certificate showing they went through it to show people on location. So yeah, it helps.
Awesome. Well, we'll include all that in the show notes. Thank you guys for listening to Local Energy. Wade, thank you. Russell, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys again next week.
All right. Thanks again.
Thanks, Russell.
Wade, that was so much fun.
I like Russell.
I love talking to people that are just like passionate about what they do. And he definitely had the it factor there. So
Yep.
my favorite thing is he found a well on a piece of property he bought. I can't get
that's
over
great.
that. Like the origin story, you know?
That is really neat.
Well, hope you have a great week. I just wanted to, say thanks for jumping on. And yeah,
Hey, I got the
guys,
hat. I got the hat and the ball. It's at the house, man. That's all.
good. Yeah, Savannah Bananas, man.
Where'd you get that pin from? It looked like it had like Japanese writing all over it.
One of my sales guys went over, this was like 5 years ago, went to Japan. He came back with like just a bunch of pens for me because I used to use just pen all day long, right? We used to just
Okay.
handwrite everything. And he's like, you're going to love this one. I literally started using it. I use nothing else now. And I don't know what it is. I just love, maybe it's because
Okay.
it's Japanese, but it's so precise. They're so incredibly well done. Guys, thanks for listening to us here at Local Energy. We'll see you again next week. And Wade, have a great finish to your day.
All right. You too. Thanks, Peter.
All right, late.